Hey there guys, Erica here from Ep4 Thank you so much to my patrons and my channel members, okay there goes my headphones, for supporting me and the channel. And yes, I'm sitting sideways in my chair, that looks kind of strange. But welcome back to episode 4 of the Belly Dragger build. This is the final build episode for this rig. And today we're going to be tackling wheels, tires, electronics, and taking this rig out for its first little test drive. Yeah, I'm super excited to get this thing out on the rocks and seeing what it can do. So if you're excited, stay tuned and let's jump right back into the build. So the next thing we're going to tackle is wheels and tires and get this rig turned into an actual roller. So for tires, I'm going to be running the Proline Hyrax tires that I was running on my MOA for a little bit. These are 2.9 size tires, so they're pretty darn big, obviously, as you can tell. And for wheels, I'm going to be running these Treal Hobby red 2.9 inch beadlocks. They look super, super nice. The only downside to them is that they are 17 millimeter hexes. So I had to get some hex adapters. So this is a 17 to 12 millimeter hex adapter so that I can actually run these wheels with the 5 millimeter shafts that are on these Vanquish axles. Because I couldn't find any 17 millimeter hexes that had 5 millimeter diameter holes, and even if they did, the pin size probably wasn't going to be right, so I just ended up going with some adapters to get these wheels to work. So we're going to be slamming these wheels into the Proline Hyraxes. I don't know what foams I'm going to run yet. I have a set of foams that came with some different tires that I'm probably going to end up cutting a bunch of holes in and comp cutting and all that jazz. Not really sure what that's going to end up looking like, but of course I will let you guys know what I end up doing. Then I also picked up a set of Vanquish knuckle weights. These are AR60 knuckle weights for these particular knuckles that Vanquish makes, which happen to be these in particular. So that should add some extra weight to the front end, help with our performance, all that jazz. I got my brass knuckle weights on and they're looking super snazzy. They basically attach with a couple screws on the back there that clamp it to the knuckle. So then I've also spent some time fooling around with getting my wheels mounted. Now the wheels that I got have 17 millimeter hexes, which I think I showed you. So I had to get some hex adapters to go from 12 millimeter to 17. And that's all well and good, except that with a normal size hex, the hex hub here would rub on the wheel weight because the wheel weight adds a little bit extra thickness to the knuckle. So what I've done is I've used a wide, I don't know how thick this is, but it looks like probably 15 millimeter hex hub here. And that's able to space the wheel hub off of the knuckle far enough so that it won't rub. Now I measured my track width in the front and the rear. The front is 12.5 inches with this current setup, and the rear is 12 inches. So I want to narrow the front a little bit. So what I'm going to do to get it narrowed up is I'm going to take 200 thou off of the hex, and I'm going to shorten the hex hub here by 50 thou. So once all that's said and done, we should be narrowed by about 3/8 of an inch, and we should have 50 thou clearance between the knuckle weight and the wheel hub. So with that modification complete, we're looking at about 12.25 inches, maybe a little more, probably like 12 3/8, which is definitely better than what it was. We were able to cut down about 1/2 inch of material, maybe a little less than that, maybe 0.4. If I feel like this rig is too square in the future, there is another way that I can shrink down the front track width by modifying the wheel itself and the hex hub for it, but that's a little more in-depth, so if I need to do that, I will, but for now we're just going to roll with it like this, with 12 inches in the back, and about 12 3/8 in the front. It's not that big of a difference, and so it shouldn't really be that noticeable. And now I get to move on to tires. Oh boy, haha. What I'm doing for foam. I've taken my foams and cut a ring off the outside of them and more or less kind of comp cut them by using a circular dowel cutter. It's just a piece of pipe that I took and sharpened the edge of and taped to a screwdriver handle. I know, very janky, but it works. Now I've done this a little bit differently than my MOA in that I have cut the corners off one pair of foams. The other one is currently in this tire. Now, my reason for that is that these Proline Hyrax tires are extremely, extremely stiff in the corners. There's a lot of material right here that takes a lot of force to actually deform. So having this cut in the corner is going to help give us space for the tire to actually deform in that location. The sidewalls are super stiff. These corner lugs are super thick and super stiff. So whatever help I can get there is going to be a benefit, especially in the front because we're turning and, you know, doing weird side stuff, you know, clawing in at funky angles, yada, yada, yada. You guys get the picture. The rear, not so much, so it's just a straight, more or less comp cut like I mentioned. Guys, the belly dragger finally has wheels and tires. Heck yeah, these wheels look absolutely stunning, and all the red parts on this thing are starting to look really nice together. So I've done a little bit of fiddling and tweaking, and I've decided on where my electronics are going to go. My ESC is going to sit right here on this little plate, and my receiver is going to sit just behind it on the other little plate right there. I have also added my spur cover back on because the wires are going to be running like right over top of it, so I want to make sure they're protected. And then my battery is going to go on the front axle here. I'm going to be using these Genze saddle packs that I made. I've got a bunch of them now at this point because I run them in my MOA and my Shafty. And I figure I'd use them on this rig too because they're small and they don't take up a lot of space. However, I do have some space concerns with my track bar here, so that is going to have to move or get modified somehow. I'm not quite sure what I'm going to do there yet. And then my batteries will plonk right on top of the axle, just there. Then I want to do a little bit of tweaking in the rear end. I'm going to make some proper links so I don't have to be using spacers on these guys. And I also want to make some more cross members for the chassis because I don't have any other little links to go between the chassis rails, and I need a couple more cross braces for support. I'm not quite sure what I'm going to get up to first, but whatever it is, I will update you. I just finished up making some nicer cross members, make everything look a little less janky, and I also made some 5/16 rear upper links, which turned out good. So since I'm feeling kind of lazy right now and don't feel like relocating my track bar, I'm going to work on getting my electronics all wired up and ready to go. Alrighty, my electronics are done. Everything turned out super clean. I mean, there's not a whole lot going on this rig, so there wasn't a whole lot of wire to manage. There's still this little bit that I need to tidy up, but I'll do that later. And as you can hear, this thing is beeping away. Yes, that means it is ready to go. I got my radio bound up. I got everything calibrated and trimmed and endpoints set. And check it out. We got steering. That is a super fast servo. Like, holy crap. That is insane. And aw yeah, we got power, baby. Now this motor is an outrunner motor, so it sounds very odd. Listen closely. Isn't that such a wacky noise? I've never heard anything like that in my life. But hey, this is awesome. All I really need to do now is sort out a spot for my batteries up front, which is going to involve me relocating my track bar like I mentioned. So that's what I'm going to tackle next, and then after that we can take it out to the park and give her a little rip. Here's what I've done with my track bar. I made a new link out of the 5/16 round aluminum and put a nice little bend in it. And I've got it attached down here where the C-hub bolts on. And then I've got this little plate here that goes over to the knuckle screw to create a double shear point right here where it attaches so that any like harsh side-to-side movement isn't going to just rip the screw out of the axle tube. It functions very nicely. Full movement and articulation, no binding or anything, so that is fantastic. And then my battery strap here, I just kind of weaseled in underneath the truss, and that'll be good enough for now. So with that, it is time to take this crazy rig out for a test run. Yeah! Oh my gosh, we're actually going to go out and drive it on some rocks. I am so excited to see how this thing does. Let's go, guys. Alright, well, I guess we're about to see what this thing is capable of. Made easy work of that. Oh yeah, drag that belly. Heck yeah. That was pretty impressive. Now it's a really big lip to climb up. I mean, here's my hand. It did great.
That was incredibly steep, and I do hope the camera did that justice. And holy God, that motor is loud.
It is very loud. Yeah, Outrunner motors tend to be very noisy. I want to give this line here a try because that's one that I did with the MOA early on. I don't think it's going to do it, but let's give it a try.
Very chunky route.
Ooh, that wasn't a good noise.
No. Your motor's still spinning and you're not moving.
I think my spur gear's crap now. I don't know. Let's just put it there and see what it does.
Oof.
Nah, I don't think so. It's not long enough.
That thing can get real vertical before it starts getting tipsy, though.
Yeah. Nope, no dice on this one. That's all right. I'd say comparing this one to the MOA, it's definitely a step down, but it's a step above my shafty. So it's a good, like, kind of in the middle rig. So something Brian just pointed out is that it looks like the motor has been rubbing on something. I know it's hard to see because it's blurry, but if I push the front axle in and compress the suspension just right, it rubs on my servo a little bit. I was hoping that wouldn't be the case.
Dumb test. I'll give it a little throttle, you give it a push. See if it makes that clicking noise.
Nope, I can make it grind into the aluminum.
Alright, well then, yeah, dumb test.
But it is making a clicking noise sometimes. Not sure what that's from, but probably the spur gear. I'll have to tear it open and see. That back tire up there. There we go. Really stable going downhill. Yeah, it's definitely not going to do this line, even though the MOA did it, but it's worth a shot. Yeah, not with these tires in their current condition. It is way too muddy.
Yeah. I think it has the capacity for it, just not the traction for it right now.
Maybe, yeah. If I gave it a little nudge, just like hook up on there.
Yeah, it'll stick and hang out.
Yeah, nope, no dice. So first impressions are pretty good. Obviously, the wet and muddy tires don't help anything right now. And it doesn't seem like this is really the rig for chunk. I think it's going to do a lot better out at the lake where there's more, I don't know, what would you call it? Like smoother formations?
Yeah,
instead of chunks.
Just not jagged.
Yeah, it's less jagged for sure.
And the traction is substantially better than pretty polished limestone.
Yeah, I don't know what
slate,
kind of
whatever
this
this is.
Yeah. And with that pretty much concludes the belly dragger ability, guys. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you're excited to see more of this rig in the future. I'm definitely looking forward to getting it out at some different locations, really putting it through its paces when it's not muddy and wet, of course. It's probably going to need a little bit of shock tuning, maybe some other little adjustments here or there, but for the initial rendition of it, I'd say I got it pretty darn good. So, with that, guys, thank you so much for watching. If you did enjoy, please do leave a big fat thumbs up. If this does happen to be the first video that you've seen by me, make sure you go down, hit that subscribe button, leave a comment down below. If you want to catch up with me outside of YouTube, head over to my Instagram at Howie49_RC. If you want to chat with fellow RC enthusiasts, head over to my Discord server. And if you want to support me and the channel, consider becoming a channel member or joining my Patreon. With that, guys, thank you again so much for watching. Me, the Belly Dragger, and Brian will see you all in the next one.